Hey everyone, Bob Kendall here. I'm going to be doing a live stream tonight instead of the normal commentary. I've got some time constraints that I have to deal with, and it's going to free up a lot of time of mine. So we'll kick this off in just a minute. We'll see if anybody shows up. We've got a few that are showing up. So if you can hear me, give me a sound check and let me know it's okay. Hey, Peter. Hey, listen, man, if you guys like what I'm doing here, this is what I'd like to start doing. And then I'm going to just shut down for a minute. The room's starting to fill up a little bit. But what I would like to do is on Sunday and Thursday night, I'm going to do my normal videos that I always do. And then on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night, I will do a live stream. And they're going to be about a half hour. It's also giving me ability to cover a whole lot of markets, and I'll probably answer a few questions. So I don't want to go real long. I want to be out of here in about a half hour or so. But this will free up about 7 hours of my time. Believe it or not, the nightly videos take between 2.5 and 3 hours to produce. So that'll be really helpful if this works out and it works for the channel and you folks are feeling like you're getting what you need to get from me. So give me 1 minute. We got about 65 people showing up, and we'll talk. We'll go into a lot of detail because I'm excited about doing this because I enjoy the live streams. They've just been very powerful. So hang on, give me 1 minute. I'm going to get some fluids, and then I will be back. Hang on, folks. Okay, folks, I am ready. I'm going to do some dialogue like I usually do every night and just talk about what's going on in the markets themselves. And one of the things that happened yesterday, we're starting to see some selling coming in out of London right now, and that, let me put it over here, and the London folks look like they want to start selling into this thing. This is the 5-minute chart. We're seeing some sell-off right now, but let's talk about what didn't happen yesterday. Everything started in the last hour of trading, and a lot of the market action that we saw in that last hour really wasn't explainable. And I talked about this in our Wave Tech session today, is what we really saw was just some heavy selling, liquidation coming in, and these coronavirus stories are just going out of control. I live in Arizona, and this is supposed to be a hot spot, and I can tell you it is hot. It's 111, but there's no one's slowing down, and it's still going. So there's a lot of rhetoric around. Every organization there was hyping the COVID, and hype by hype I mean that it was big in the news, so the algorithms picked it up, and we're going to see the London folks come in, and they're selling this thing down a little bit here. We're seeing down 250, but we actually rallied about 4 or 5 handles before the close. But let's just talk about fundamentally. Listen, one day of selling. I love the comments on the channel. It gives me an opportunity to really get a feel. There's a lot of amateurs ready to sell, and we got a 1 hour sell off, so the end of the world's coming. It's not. The secular bull market that I talked about last night is still very much intact. All this was a little blip on the screen. In fact, net since Friday, we are still higher, and so we're really not. This thing isn't really rolling over here. I know there's an awful lot of folks that would like to see that happen. I think they're going to be really disappointed. But we've got virtually no news coming out tomorrow. There's a couple items that are coming, that will be coming out, but not anything material. Where everybody's going to be on hold until we see the employment filings on Thursday and then PPI on Friday. There's really the week after we have the employment numbers come out. It's a dead week from news, and we're going to start seeing earnings come out and all of that stuff. And somebody just said the gap was filled today. That was something I talked about many weeks ago. But the thing that I bring, if you watch my Sunday's video, one of the things that came in, we got 5,100 new buy signals. And I can tell you our models aren't going to be wrong 5,100 times. I've been doing this a very long time, and a very long time with these models. These models run billions of dollars. It's a no-joke deal. And so what we saw today, last hour sell-off, we'll see if we get any follow-through today. And I'll go through the numbers and show you where the support numbers are and all that. The grid for today, I posted. I have not put the grid on the channel, but I will when I finish tonight. It's really cool that right now we got 144 people. It's 10 o'clock on the West Coast here in the U.S., and I think there's some folks I see that are coming in from Singapore. We have actually a fair amount of Asian watchers on the channel. So, anyway, what we saw, like I said, what we saw yesterday was not the end of the world. It was a 1% sell-off. So 99 more days like that will be at zero. Not going to happen. And what we're really seeing here is just some market activity, and everything is still very positive in my view. So let's go over and we've got. I want to show you something that is happening on the daily chart here. We'll just dig into the charts, and I'm just going to run through almost like a live stream like I do on tomorrow, Wednesday, and I'm just going to cover a bunch of markets. And the market grid right now for the futures, I put this out, 3148 is R1. We actually hit R1 earlier in the evening. Now the bottom is S1 is 3124. We're going to work this range, but I want you to see something here, and I'll draw in some of this stuff so you can actually see what's going on. You'll see this PPM1 is actually turning up. It's not turning down. There's no acceleration. It's actually turning up. The PPM2 here and PPM3 are still going up. This is not the position that a sell-off or a collapse occurs from. We're still above the 10-period moving average. We're still above all the averages. Our models are still long. Everything is there. In fact, I'll show you in a minute. We'll go to the WaveTech database, and I'll show you that we got very few sells out of this sell-off yesterday. It was not a material sell-off. There was no breaches of any technical patterns. Yeah, we filled the gap. I get it. But this is just almost a classical pattern. Markets don't go straight up. So we've had 5 days up. We're going to couple of days down. Somebody on the chat, I think it was on the channel, somebody pointed out that there's a 21-day high or something coming in here. And I looked at it, and one of the things, these dots that you see on the screen here, let me just change something so you can see this a little better. So these dots, nice, wrong. Let me change this arrow, 1 second. So what we've got, this is funny, the zeros are backwards. That is just hilarious. Hang on 1 second. I use these all the time, and all of a sudden they want to reverse from me. That's unbelievable. Okay, so I figure out how to use them. Let me clean them up. Sorry about that. So these dots here are cycles, and they're cycle clusters. And I developed a tool many years ago, I hate to admit, 1992, that looks for clusters of cycles. So not just a high to low, but it actually projects out from every high and low. I've developed a pattern finder, and it looks at every high and low across the spectrum and looks for clusters where there's 2 or more Fibonacci cycles hitting. So it might be a 21, a 144, an 89. There might be multiple sector cycles that are hitting at the same time. And these clusters, this one right here came in right at the highs on 6/2, I think it was, on the 2nd of June. Let me just see what that date was. It was 6/9. And so that's where this cycle came in, right there on 6/9 to the day. And so we don't have any cycles. The upslope is still there on all of the patterns. If we go over to the weekly, we're going to look at, and we're going to see everything's very positive here. There's still some negative on the PPM2. It's -3.7, but this PPM1 is still up 1.08, and this 10-week moving average is going to be the dominant pattern. Now, in last night's video, I talked about the secular trends, and I'm going to flip over to that chart there, and all this did was make a little blip. This monthly graph, this is the beginning of the month. We have 3 more weeks of this month to go, and there's very, very little movement in this thing that's going to cause anything to change. I don't have the PPMs on this chart, but everything is incredibly bullish. So folks that want to call out, this is where the crash begins, I do not think so, just based on what we were just looking at on the daily charts here. So we're looking at the futures. If we go over to cash, you'll see similar type formations on the cash weekly. It was interesting that right here is where we got the cycle to come in about midpoint in this rally. Like I said, I'm going to remain a bull at the moment. There's no reason to panic because of a 1-hour sell-off, and we'll see how this all plays out. We're down 225 right now on the futures, so there was some selling coming in, and not much to go with. Let's take a look at, and let's also do this. If you folks have any markets. I'm going to go through a bunch of stuff here. I'm just going to go on a run. But if you want to ask a couple questions, go ahead and put them on the timeline. I'll try to get through to everybody. All right. Yeah, my wife tells me I got to be home by 10:30, folks. So we're going to do this quick. So let's go ahead and look at. I'm going to bring up something that I think is important, and this is a pattern that I've been talking about for a while, which is the small cap versus the S&P. It continues just to fail. There's nothing positive going on there, and I really believe if I'm going to be right on this next move to the upside, you're going to have to see these small caps kick in at some point. And at the moment, while coronavirus and all this stuff is going on around us, the small caps are going to have the most trouble. The big multinationals, we know Nasdaq is the safe trade. We know about all of those things. But there is absolutely, if we get traction in the small caps, this is going to confirm at least that rally up to around the 3,400 level that I talked about, and maybe a bit higher than that. All right. Hang on here. Just trying to get to the right graph. Yeah, so we've got that nailed down. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at. We'll do gold. Gold just can't get out of its own way. This is a weekly gold. It's still on a weekly basis looks pretty good. We're getting PPM1 here to turn up. PPM2, they're actually a very strong trend. 0.57 on the PPMs, you see them on the left, and 0.57 on PPM2 and 0.41. So these are very robust trends on an intermediate level. When we go to the daily, we're actually going to see a very flat momentum. We are up 0.23 on PPM2, so there is that upward trend. I've been talking about this for a while. The main moving average here is 1790, which is the 10-day moving average. That is going to be major support. We're trading 1806. I talked about last night that we need to close above 1808. We actually were able to do that yesterday. So we should see a move toward the 1830, 1840 level over the next maybe 5 to 8 sessions. Now, whether that means we are going to see some selling in the S&P, we'll see. Yeah, I will definitely do a couple stocks here. We won't get too heavy into this thing, but I just want to cover all the primary markets. So there's gold. Let's do crude oil real quick. Crude oil is just in this narrowing gap. We just got a cycle cluster to hit 2 days ago. So this is a market to watch very closely. If we close underneath the 10-day moving average, 40.37, this is the near futures that I have up here. If we close under that number, that's going to tell us we're going to see some downside. But we're seeing PPM1 turn up, PPM2 and 3 are in this sideways maintenance mode. So I really just see this thing crawling into this very narrow band, and ultimately I can still think we're going to head toward the 200-day moving average. And the only way we're going to that moving average is if the economy is going to continue to move higher. I know, I'm more or less a Warren Buffett troll. I'm not a big fan of his, but he does have a lot of money. He made a big mistake on the airlines, and I will just set you guys up because I mentioned airlines. I think there's trade number 2 coming in airlines. I'm probably going to do a video sometime in the next several days that I see another trade like we had in May setting up for this. So as we look at this crude oil, this is, in my opinion, very bullish. The trends are all up. If we go over to the weekly, you're going to start to see this pattern is setting up, I think there's a really strong probability we're going to go to the $55 level on crude oil. That's not going to happen with the economy collapsing. Everything's pointing up. Look at PPM1. Let me move this over here. PPM1 is a plus 3.97. That average is at 37.36. That's rock bottom. You can buy crude oil blindfolded at 37.30. The probabilities of going below that level right now is like less than 10% based on that PPM reading. So let's take a look at, let's just go one more time level out real quick here. Let's go to monthly. Yeah, we got a bunch of folks on there. If you guys are liking this, man, smash that like button there. Yeah, so the monthly actually is setting up too. I've got the market grid on here, and look at the market grid for this month. Right now we've been in a very narrow range. The high end is $56, but 48, 47, 44 is R1. So far we've had a 42 and a 40, 48. So it looks to me, based on the longer term, the cap on this thing is going to be around that $55, which the weeklies are telling us we're going there. The dailies are still in a very bullish mode. So the entire complex of looking at short-term, intermediate, and long-term trades are telling us this thing is very firm. There's an uptrend, but there's a lot of overhead resistance, because we look over on the left here, PPM1 minus 0.24, minus PPM2 minus 0.312, and minus 0.097. So if you're first time watching this channel, the PPM stand for price pressure momentum. They measure the angle of attack, or tell you about what the probabilities of the market rising above, in this case, rising above the major resistance is that average at 54.97, and it's going to be dropping at 5% per week. So we're looking at a $2 drop. So this is monthly, so next month it'll be 52 and so forth. So there's a lot of resistance overhead, but there's also, when we look at the intermediate and the daily, there's a lot going on. All right. We're going to go over and take a quick look at the 10-year. Just going to hit interest rates. We're going to have a bunch of stuff here real quick. The 10-year is actually turning south again, where you have a minus 0.88, minus 1.58, and minus 2.7. So there's definitely some downward pressure. PPMs are actually accelerating here, and this is telling us that we could see the lower end of this range challenge down around 6.2 or so, 0.62. We're currently 0.65. Downside should still be limited, even though we're seeing some acceleration. We should go down to that level. If we got lower than that, we'd probably see a very fast reversal. So, hey, Jason Kendall from Hong Kong, welcome. I heard you and Jason had an interesting chat online the other day. But anyway, my son's Jason Kendall with 2 L's. Anyway, all right, let's go to, let's do silver. Somebody asked for silver, so we'll hit some requests. I've got a few more minutes to keep going here. Let's start with the daily. So daily silver, very similar to gold. It's actually starting to accelerate. 0.45 ppm1, 0.18, and 0.39 ppm1, 2, and 3. And this type of pattern is very bullish. And we'll have to go to the weekly. You see, we had a lot of clusters of cycles around this last low, and right at the 200-day moving average. That black line in the middle there is the 200-day. So let's go over to the weekly. And you can see the weekly grid is telling us that we are likely to, from a range, we could go to around 1877, possibly hit 19 in this move this week. It looks really good. We're seeing great acceleration, 2.02 on ppm 1, ppm 2 and 3 are both positive. Not a lot, but that's a screaming ppm there on ppm 1 telling us that we're going to continue to move up toward the upper range of the market grid. And the market grid's really handy to be able to get a feel for the ranges on a weekly basis. And I believe this market is much stronger looking than gold, by the way. We look at the monthly, we'll see a similar type thing for this month. We're looking at R1 1928, and then we're looking at R2 and 3 up at 1995, $20. So that would be a pretty big move, to say the least. But we're looking at, if you look at the ppms here, they're all turning up or have crossed their first and second derivatives. The two lines that are on this chart is absolutely the signs that this market is ready to explode. And if we look at this longer term pattern, this is the place where you want to own this thing longer term. There's no doubt about this. All right. Let's do Tesla real quick. What a rocket ship, huh? Space powered by SpaceX or something. But this went all the way through the extreme of the monthly, which is insane. Okay, let me bring that up on the screen so you can see what that number. So we started the month. We closed last month at 1,079. And now we printed 1429. That top end of the band, RXT, you'll see here on this grid, was 1352. So we just blew right through that. And this is just absolutely amazing what this market's done. We're looking at ppms. I'm not sure I've ever seen ppms like this. 19.66. This is 20%. This tells us that the 10-month moving average is moving 20% per month. So that it's way down here. You can see it's at 699. So it's going to be jumping hundreds of dollars. So it would take for the 10-month moving average to catch up with the price action. It's going to take at least 4 to 6 months at that rate. And at that point in time, that will be your floor for this market. Yeah, I was telling a story. Somebody saying bubble in this. I've been trading for a long time, and I can tell you that in 1999, Qualcomm, QCOM, went from $36 pre-split to $900. And at every $100 up, it was a bubble. If you were listening to the market, that's what they were saying. So where can Tesla go? It's hard to tell, but I can tell you one thing. If we close above this extreme that we're looking at here, if we finished a month, we're a long ways from finishing a month. If we close above that, then we're probably going to see that be a top. You probably just saw the top of everything right there on this. Let's go to a short-term chart so we can just take a look at. It was interesting. Yesterday we closed above the extreme, And typically you'll get 2 to 3 days of sideways to down. So Tesla may have printed maybe a short-term top that could go sideways. Just looking at the daily, it'll all be up to how this thing ends up, how we trade tomorrow. And I really do think the markets are going to rebound tomorrow. They'll stabilize. There's some pretty substantial numbers. I'll go back and review the S&P, because when I covered that, I want to make sure that those numbers are out there to make sure we're covering this market properly. If we go to weekly, we're going to just see more of the same on Tesla. Yeah, same thing on weekly. We've exceeded everything. This thing is in a runaway, and whether there's a lot of shorts out there that got caught again, I'm not sure what's driving this market. With all the delays and everything else that have happened in deliveries, it's amazing that's happened like it has. But hey, if you own it, it's fun. I would just be very cautious and keep some pretty tight stops. If you have the ability to maybe even trade out of half of this thing, if you can run maybe hourly charts or something like that, let's take a look at that. Let's go ahead and just look at a 60-minute graph here. Let me get this out of the way. Yeah, you can see it's starting to show some signs of this rounded top. When the market grid starts to expand out like this, these are typically times at least we'll get some sideways movement, maybe backfill toward maybe 1310, 1315 level. On this, we close at 1381, so there could be some downside here. Yeah, it looks like futures did turn back positive a minute ago. We'll go back. What I'm going to do is I'll go for another few minutes. We'll cover a few more stocks. We're going to hang out tomorrow, folks, for multiple hours. Like I said, we've got, I don't know how many we got, about 400 people on the stream right now, so that's pretty awesome. And I see some folks from around Malaysia and Asia. I know we've got, like I said before, we've got a lot of folks watching in Asia. And sounds like South Africa too. I saw some other folks there. Yeah, I'm sure the PE ratio is probably 1,000,000 to 1 on Tesla for sure. Yeah, I wonder, Andre, I wonder if that will happen, if Tesla will make it into the S&P 500. That'll be very interesting. Okay, so let's go back. Let's review the S&P. I want to make sure that I get these numbers out there, because usually when I do the videos, I get them very, very structured. So I want to make sure I get what I normally put out every night. So let's go back to the S&P here. Let's talk about the numbers that are important. Let's go to the daily graph. The market grid for tomorrow on the cash market. I will post this when we're done with this. But these are the numbers. We're looking at S2, S1 is 36, 3136, 3127. We should hold S1, S2 range, and likely we'll see at least R1 because of the downside action yesterday. We're probably going to see an S2 R1, and if we print up early, we could see a sell-off toward the close tomorrow. Good news is tomorrow we'll be talking. We'll be on the live stream tomorrow, so we'll be able to cover that in a real-time mode. All right, looking at, as I mentioned earlier, if we go over to the futures and we put the futures on here, what you're going to, these are showing an uptick. Even the market is up slightly. It's interesting because we're about almost 2 hours from London opening, and there's an early crowd that's been coming into London, and it's very similar to what happens in New York. A lot of folks, I have buddies in New York that get up at 3 in the morning, 2:30, 3 in the morning, and I used to always do it. There was a trade that you could do around right around the London Open. You could usually fade that open. There's some selling coming in prior to the open. You could fade it. So those of you that are in Asia and in Europe, those are trades you can always watch for, especially if we have a trend. Right now, the trend is still up on the S&P. There's so many folks out there just wanting this thing to collapse. I don't think it's going to collapse until everybody capitulates at some stage. And I know a lot of folks, I read a lot of the comments. I do try to respond sometimes. I actually try to respond to a lot of things that I see. But the bottom line is, market's not going to roll over yet. And I just don't see there's a stat that something, on the corona situation, there's a stat that they don't mention. They mention increased cases, but you don't hear the mortality. There's not, in Texas, for instance, they have more cases right now than New York ever did, and the mortality or the death rate is so low, it's not even measurable. And those of you, I'm an old dude, at 68, I probably have some risk with this stuff. But under 50, the numbers are almost zero, the number of people that die on a relative basis that actually get exposed to this stuff that are under 50. So, I don't know that this is going to become a big factor. I do believe that the economy will come back. I don't think they're going to be able to shut this down. People are getting kind of crazy. I don't know if you folks saw the fireworks shots. I saw some in L.A. I know, Andre, you're in L.A., and, there was just fireworks everywhere. Jason, my son, is down in the valley, and he said it was crazy down there by him, too. So everybody was doing it, and supposedly it was supposed to be illegal. So it was a whole very interesting scene on 4th of July here in the U.S. So let's take a look. Somebody said something about, so I think I've covered this really well. The parameters will be on the channel. I will put these numbers out there so you'll have them in there. I keep getting questions from some folks don't know how to find the information on the channel itself. So I am going to bring that up. Most of you folks should know this. I think most of you do. I'm just going to bring the channel up real quick. And right here in the community area is where these numbers will be posted. I put them up here every night. And we're working on getting TradeStation ready. I did tell you I was going to show you something. But anyway, this is where these are posted. Okay? I did say I wanted to show you something I talked about earlier on, is what the database is doing. I'm going to go to the daily database here, and I want to show you the all stats page, which is going to show the new buys and sells for the day. And what you're going to see here is there were more sells than buys, but we're 66 buys on 1.2, only 143 symbols selling. Now remember, there's 16,614 symbols in the database. The current bullish on right here is actually 68%. That number didn't even change. I think it was 68.18. Now it's 1.6. So not material. So there was no trigger. So this is important. When we saw that sell off in the last hour, the market closed down 1%. Remember, it closed up 1.6 yesterday, basis the S&P. All we did was give back the previous day's gains for the most part. and we had a good day on Friday. So we're still net, we're ahead of this thing. But the patterns, this database tells us a lot more about the overall market, not just the indices. And what's happening is we're not seeing the selling. I'm expecting to see this bullish percent go back to around 72, 74%. So that says that we're going to get some more traction, and it's likely to be some, once we get to that level, at that point in time, I think we see 32.14, maybe 32.20. That's where this particular sequence we're in, 100 points from where we are now, not quite. That's where this sequence will most likely top out on a short-term basis. I still think there's at least another maybe 4 to 8, maybe till next Friday, sometime next week, this thing is going to stay biased to the upside. We're going to start to see earnings come out. And if the earnings are anything like what we've been seeing in the economic reports, then we're probably going to get those to come out much better than they have been expected anyway. So anyway, I just want to bring that in there so you could see that. And let's see here. Yeah, somebody's asking, it's very interesting. Is the U.S. election going to affect the markets? Absolutely. If you watched last night's video on the secular moves that I talked about, watch that video. If you haven't seen the video, watch the section when I go into the long-term section. What I'm looking for is markets actually to rally into the election. It could carry into the first of the year, and then a massive reversal and pull back into the range where we see the potential. If I bring that chart up real quick, where I'm talking about moving up toward the top end of this monthly range, which currently right now is RXT is 34.59, R3 is 33.74. So I'm expecting to see us move up into the election to at least those levels. You'll see these dots on the screen right here, and what those are Fibonacci projections that are live and valid on the screen right now. And the minimum high target is 34.77. That comes off of this crazy pattern that came before this spike in volatility that we saw. But watch that video, because I think it was pretty substantial. And I am going to do the Nasdaq. I've got to put these numbers together for you guys, and then I got to bolt out of here. But we've got 500 people. This is awesome. Okay, so like I said, just to put this out there again, we've got so many people on. If you're enjoying these live streams, I'll do these at night. It's super good because I don't have to edit anything, and that's going to make my life so much better. Like I said, I'm going to pick up between 6.5, 7 hours. That's an entire workday to some people. People have been asking me when I sleep, and I joke on Sunday, but I don't even sleep on Sunday. So, but this will pick up some time. We have a lot of activity going in with the WaveTech tool. We're launching Portfolio Expert next week. So if you haven't signed up for WaveTech, you want to take a look at it, you can go to the kindlereport.com/WaveTech, and there's a video there, and you can sign up for it if you find it interesting. Yeah, let's get some more likes on this thing. Let's let YouTube and the folks know that we're doing something good here. Anyway, so let me go through Nasdaq, and then we're going to call it quits there. I keep punching the wrong buttons. Okay, let's put the Nas up. I'm going to go to the futures. I still think we're going to get 11,000 out of this. The daily charts flattened out a lot. We still have a plus 33 on PPM1, a plus 31, a plus 32. And I'm going to put the market grid up here for those of you so you can write these numbers down. So you can see the grid for today. So far, the low's been 10,512. S1 is 10,479. R1 10,585. I think we could see, like I said, on the S&P, an S2 number if we get some follow through. If the market can't follow through in the first 2 hours tomorrow, then we'll probably get an S1, maybe even print R2. I think a lot of folks want this thing to go down. We'll have to see if they can generate enough news to get this down. I counted 15 stories yesterday on CNBC about coronavirus. Yeah, so Brett Simpson asking about the option trading using the WaveTech tool. Yeah, there's some interesting things that you're going to do. I'm working on it right now. I hope he hears this on video. He'll know who he is, but I have a friend that is an option expert. I think it's okay to say this, but he was one of the original founders that left early on at TOS back in the day with Tom Snosnoff and Tony and the gang. And Tom Snosnoff was my very first customer on what was called the Virtual Portfolio Manager, and we called it VisiPort, which stood for Visual Portfolio. It was our first version, 1997-98. But the whole thing, So anyway, if you want to check that out, what we're planning on doing with the options is showing how to structure some trades around one of the things that WaveTech does, I don't just go into that for a second, is it gives you objectives of what it's likely to do, especially on the short-term trades. It will tell you that when it gets a buy signal, it's going to hold it for X amount of time. It's going to tell you what the returns are, and it also gives you the price of the trade, which tells you that you can write some straddles, you can do some butterflies, you can do some really cool things around that strategy to wrap it up. Now, I'm a former market maker, Pacific Options Exchange. I just don't have the energy and time to start doing options. It's just too much. I would rather have somebody come in that actually knows what they're doing. And I have some plans of bringing in some other folks and friends of mine that will go. Okay, I think we got all that. So that's the ranges for. I've got those up on the screen, so make sure you write those down and maybe catch the end of this video. So anyway, I'm pretty impressed that we were able to get 500 people on. Yeah, I know during the day we'll get maybe 1,800. I think we got 4,200 last week on the Wednesday live stream. So I'll see everybody then. Thanks so much for taking the time, and spending time with me. And I love our international crowd. It's really, really good stuff. And we're going to be doing a lot of cool stuff on this channel as we go forward. I'm just learning how to do this. You have to remember, 3 months ago, I had 150 subscribers. So, and this has been all, I don't do annoying ads on YouTube. This has all been, literally been, organic growth. People found out about this and they go, I see somebody, H. Wood just says, CMB wants everything to go down. They really do. Number one, they hate Trump. So that's the only way they can get him out. And that's okay if they hate him, but it's funny, but they do want it. Anyway, thanks again, folks. I hope you enjoyed this. Before you leave, maybe smash the like button, and we'll see you tomorrow at 1:30 New York time. And I'm looking forward to it. Bring all your questions. If you're still around, maybe some of you are like me and you won't be going to sleep until then. Have a great rest of your night. Good luck trading for you folks in Asia and other places that are trading, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks again.